You are listening to Big Trouble in Little Podcast. And here are your hosts, Joe Dubs and Andy.
Hello, Internet peeps, and welcome to another edition of Big Trouble in Little Podcast. I am Joe Dubs.
And I'm Andy.
This is our bi-weekly podcast of movies, and last week we did video games. We like to do a little video games, then movies. That's our shtick. I don't know if I said that right, but that's what we do here. That's our staple. Andy, what the hell you been watching?
I've been working on my house a lot, so I haven't been sitting down to seriously watch a movie. I've just been putting something on and then maybe doing something in the next room. Or there were a couple times I started watching something, turned off the PlayStation 4, went and worked, came back, resumed movie, stuff like that. So I just watched some comedies I've seen before. I watched Happy Gilmore yesterday. Movie's still funny. Austin Powers Goldmember wasn't as funny as I remember it, but I was still entertained. I watched a ton of Bob's Burgers. I didn't realize I'd fallen so far behind and had to watch a season and a half. I had to watch it. I did that. I watched Golden Boy, one of my favorite animes. It's only 6 episodes long, so it didn't take long. It's just stuff like that. I've been in and out, but I still managed to sneak in some movies.
Austin Powers is starting to not age well in the comedy, in my opinion.
Yeah, there's a lot of jokes that are really dated, place them there really specifically, and I think all three of the movies have some homophobic stuff that it's just really not going to play nowadays and stuff like that. But there are still many other scenes that are really fun. I was entertained. I'm not going to nominate it for any awards, but it was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the third one, so they were kind of on it.
And of course, Happy Gilmore.
Yeah.
Fucking amazing.
Yeah.
It's when Adam Sandler was in his prime. My movies and one movie and 2 TV shows. I watched a little more Twilight Zone. Just hit up all my favorites like To Serve the Man. There's Something on the Wing. The one Maple Street. Did
Monsters on Maple Street or something like that.
Yep.
Or when the monsters came to Maple Street, something like that. It's something like this.
Mm-hmm. And then I watched Black Mirror because I watched Twilight Zone, so I have to do the modern version of Twilight Zone, even though there's another Twilight Zone coming out.
There's gonna be a modern Twilight Zone. I saw one trailer for it. It looked pretty rad.
Yeah, I'm actually interested about it, but there's a paywall and.
Oh yeah, you're right. There is. That's stupid. Isn't it? It's produced by Jordan Peele, right?
Yep.
Is he directing anything?
I believe one episode.
I'd be interested to see that.
But I actually saw the trailers. They do have that Twilight Zone tone to it. Mm. But I'm really weary about that because if it's not Rod Serling, I don't know if you could capture that. But I'll give it a chance.
They tried to bring Twilight Zone back more than once, and it's never even stood in the light cast by the greatness that is the original series. But, I mean, you get some competent people involved. There's so much time, effort, and money put into television shows now. I don't think you can help but be at least decent, as long as the writing is.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I didn't realize it wasn't going to be on anything except CBS. CBS, right?
Yeah, CBS paywall. But you know what? It's the internet. You could find it somewhere.
I suppose.
So that's what I'm going to be doing. Or maybe I'll shell out the money. Maybe.
Isn't CBS part of Hulu, or it's not?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe.
Still, that sucks. I don't want to pay for more streaming services.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll see if people are saying, oh man, this is really, really good. I mean, I'm still going to peek at it no matter what.
Yeah, that's what it'll take. Someone will have to say. And if they're smart, they'll probably put up the first episode for free, so they go watch it and be like, "Oh, this is great," and then want to watch more. So maybe they'll do that. I mean, if it's good enough, yeah, sure, I'll pay for it.
Yeah. So I watched Black Mirror. I think I watched the first season again. See, the first season's like 6 episodes, and if you haven't seen it yet, I would start with season 2. I mean, each episode is different, like Twilight Zone, so you don't have to follow like season 1, season 2. But they're all one big universe. So like they mention other episodes within the episodes.
That's interesting.
Mm-hmm. And then I watched The Prince, which had John Cusack and Bruce Willis, and there's like another guy that I forgot his name, but those are the like 2 big actors that were in it. Bruce Willis plays like a villain.
When is it from?
Was that?
When is it from? When did it come out?
It came out, I want to say, in 2015, I think.
Oh, okay.
I think it was
completely.
It was a direct to DVD, I believe.
Oh.
A Blu-ray. I'm sorry. I mean, same thing. Whatever.
Yeah, I mean, direct to disc.
Yeah. It's about the main character was like a hitman, or like a person that cleans up like a mob's mess and all that stuff. So he was a hitman, and he left Mississippi, or New Orleans, I'm sorry, where Bruce Willis is like the big mobster guy. He's like, don't mess with me. He was the boss. He runs that town. So quick story, like in the beginning, you see the main character and Bruce Willis and his daughter and wife. So you see the man across the street looking at a car, and Bruce Willis, kisses his wife and kid goodbye, and the kid and wife go into the car. Car blows up, and so that bomb was supposed to be for Bruce Willis. So that's where the tension comes in. But it's a good film.
I've seen that in the movie before. It's in Godfather 2.
Yeah.
I mean, it's fine though. I mean, it's not just a Godfather 2. I'm sure it's done.
Scarface, I think, did something similar, but like they were gonna shoot the guy. But remember the part where he's like, "I ain't gonna shoot no kids, man," and then he shot the people in the car. I don't know. That's another iconic scene. But I recommend it. It's on Netflix, by the way, if you want to check out The Prince.
Perhaps.
It's a good quickie. And John Cusack was just out of place in that film, but all right. So I think we're gonna start our movie of the week. Now we are gonna be doing Planet of the Apes ranking. So we're gonna watch every Planet of the Apes movie, and then we're gonna rank them from 1 to 9, because those are how many Planet of the Apes movies came out. Maybe they should come out with one more, so there's 10.
They might. To clarify, there are 5 of the originals, the reboot in 2001, and then the 3 like fancy new prequels, the ones that take place like more or less now, and they're supposed to establish them.
Mm-hmm. Sorry for coughing, guys. I have like itchy throat this morning. This afternoon. This is kind of like my morning. But yeah, let's get into it. Planet of the Apes, 1968, directed by Franklin J. Schaffner, if I'm saying that correctly.
Is it Schaefer, maybe?
Schaffner.
It's not in front of me, so I have no idea.
Yeah, he did the movie Patton, which was another iconic film.
Oh, fuck yeah, that movie kicks ass.
And Ford Star Jubilee. So he's one of these like old directors. Like the last movie that he did was 1989 called Welcome Home, which has Chris goddamn, I can't fucking speak tonight. Fuck it, I ain't saying it. but yeah. One thing that caught my eye was Rod Serling was a fucking screenplay writer.
Yeah, he like, I might be completely off base on this, but my understanding is they were working on it, and then he came in and helped them do it. Pretty much, like he wasn't. It wasn't like his idea, but they were like, "Man, we're trying to do this script. It's going to be so good, but we're having some trouble." So he came in and made it even better. I
Mm-hmm.
think. I have no idea where I heard it, so that could be bullshit. Maybe he invented it.
Well, I heard the same thing, and I heard he also made the iconic end scene, which, come to think of it, had a really Twilight Zone feel to it.
Oh, totally. Yeah, the whole it was blank all along.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very Twilight Zone kind of twist.
Yeah, so let's get into it. So it starts off with them in space, obviously, because they are people that are explorers of the space, and they go into the sleep thing where they go to sleep in these pods, and they're going on an exploration, and something goes wrong. They crash land on this planet into the water. One of them died because the glass breaks. The woman was Stewart, I think her name was.
Yeah, I mean, they just say Stewart the whole movie. It's her last name. Nice.
Mm-hmm. But it has Charlton Heston, who is George Taylor, and then they had what's the other guy's name? The two
I
guys.
don't know. I don't think any of the other guys were like big.
Oh, Landon. And then
you mean the characters' names? Yeah, Landon was one. Dodge was it Dodge?
Yeah, Dodge. What was really funny is, like, out of this whole casting here, like, the one that stands out to me is obviously Charlton Heston.
Yeah, I mean, he steals the show. He's great in this.
Mm-hmm. And I love how, like, when he's talking to Landon, because Landon, I guess, is more of the optimistic, while Charlton Heston is like the pessimistic.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, you left Earth because you hate people and all that jazz and stuff. And he's like, no, I just wanted to explore, but yes, I do hate people. And like Charlton Heston's character reads Landon's character to like a T. Like, he didn't even contest to it. He's like, you read me really well, but let me try to read you. And I thought that scene was pretty cool. Have you seen this movie before?
Yeah, this is actually the only Planet of the Apes movie I've ever seen. And I've seen it like 5 times. I love this movie. It's really good. The acting's good. The script's good. Even knowing the twist at the end, it's still like interesting to get there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always like frustrating to see like all the councils. They say religion and science is the same thing, and you see parallels in like our history. But then at the end, you realize that like the laws that were written more or less for a reason. Like, it is true, man really is evil. Man really does kill his brother for his land. Man really does destroy the world.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the whole thing. You have to think about it. I mean, I'm not saying you have to think about it because it's like really clever. I'm saying you have to think about it because when you're presented with it, you're like, oh yeah, oh wow, that's right, and you kind of start considering the nature of man and all this stuff. So it's a sci-fi movie from the '60s. Of course, it does that.
Yeah, the cinematography in this film was pretty good too. Like, they had.
Yeah, there's several like really cool shots, like where the camera's like upside down. I like when he's running and he runs like over the camera and it just like flips upside down to show him going up those steps.
There was some shots where they were going through the wood area and stuff, like they were going through leaves and branches, and it got really blurry. Like, that's the only thing that I like caught on that was kind of bad. Maybe they just couldn't fix it or something. But that was the only bad part. But the rest of it, like when they were getting hunted by the apes and shit, was a good scene. The shots of the Forbidden Zone,
Yeah.
which was real interesting too. Let's get this out of the way. So I was watching it, and there's a scene where Dodge is planting Dodge or Landon, I forgot, was planted a little tiny American flag into the ground when they crash landed there. and it cuts to Charlton Heston, and he just starts laughing. And do you want to explain that scene to people, like why he was laughing?
I do. I mean, why? You said it was hilarious, right? You got it on Facebook. You said, "When I watched the scene, I dropped my drink because I was laughing so loud or something."
Yeah,
And like on the face of it, it's like it's obviously a dub, and they didn't do a great job with it. But he gave him a really good vocal take, and obviously wanted to go with that. And the camera pans up in like a dramatic kind of way, and the way he's laughing is really like it's a little bit overacting. He kind of chews the scenery a little bit. So
mhm.
it's funny for that, but it's funny for a story reason too. Like you can laugh with him at what's going on.
Yeah, it's when it takes that like that scene and like it just heightens it to like a 20 because it's like, oh, that's funny, but then you hear the dub like ha 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 ha, ha, and I'm like, why are you laughing that hard, dude? I felt like they got Charlton Heston like out of a restaurant and be like, hey, we need to do this dub real quick, can you like laugh in a microphone? And he did that, and that's what we got. And it was hilarious because it did like a rack zoom on Charlton Heston's face and just started laughing. So that was a funny scene.
But he's laughing at the scientist is planting a small American flag, and he's laughing because it's absurd. Like what he's doing, it's excuse me again. It's 2,000 years in the future. They're on another planet. Using air quotes. There's no United States. There's absolutely no reason for him to be doing what he's doing. It's absurd. He's laughing at the absurdity.
Mm-hmm. And I got that, and I guess you could kind of tell that Charlton Heston's character doesn't really care about nationalism in a way. Like he knows that he's far away from Earth.
He has no reason to. Like, I mean, it's true. His character is a pessimist, and more than once he's a nihilist and he's a misanthrope. But he's not. I don't know. They still manage to play it like he's not a bad person. Like he wouldn't. He's still working with these other guys. He's a bit of a dick, but he's not like combative or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
Not really. But yeah, he's certainly. I think a misanthrope would probably be the best way to put it, because like the guy says, you hate people, and he's like, oh yeah, I do, I guess, but that's not why.
He
And
and
then
what
later in the movie, he elaborates on it. There was lots of love making going on, but not enough love. Like he was disillusioned with like interpersonal relationships and just like a relationship between man and woman and stuff like that. He was distressed with the way that was, so he figured he'd go out into the stars because why not? There's nothing on Earth for him.
mm-hmm. And when we get to the end part, the payoff, I'm guessing, did they launch in 1970? Was that their launch?
I can't remember. I didn't catch it on this most recent viewing, but it's something like that. It's not that long after the movie's supposed to take place, which obviously doesn't sync up with real world technology. But
Yeah, so this was like pretty much in the heightened Cold War era, still a little bit with Russia and the nukes and all that stuff. So, like them exploring space and all that stuff, like you could tell Charlton Heston character was like sick and tired of uh, humans being dicks and war and all that stuff. So like that's the reason. That's probably one of the reasons why he hates Earth, because of all the destruction that we do, pollution wise and war wise, I guess. What do you think of the apes in this movie?
I think they still look good. I've heard a lot of people make arguments that like the prosthetics have aged poorly and stuff like that, and a few of them the mounts don't move quite right. I still think they look good. I don't know why. Maybe it's a little bit of the rose tinted goggle glasses kind of thing going on, but most of the faces, specifically on like the leading characters like Cornelius and Zero, Dr. Zaya, stuff like that, they all still look really good. I think. I think they look exactly like filmmakers intended them to look and more or less operate that way. And you can tell that the actors aren't like restricted. They still have their full range of movement and they still use it in the movie to act.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they look good, but there's a lot of people who disagree. I mean, whatever.
I mean, yeah, it's outdated a little bit, but for that time, I thought it looked great. Like, it could have been a lot worse. Like, it could have been like a B movie rated sci-fi film where it's just like garbage. But
Oh, totally. I wonder what this movie's budget was. I've never wondered that.
it was $5 million, and then it made
33. Huh.
yeah, it made 33 in box office, pretty much.
So huge success.
Mm-hmm. Probably because of Charlton Heston and hopefully Rod Serling. People liked it or something.
I think at the time the director was like a name that people knew as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he directed The Voice from Brazil as well.
Yep. Stuff with the apes when Zira and Cornelius kissing, that was weird. Like you could see the mask with
Yeah,
like Ben.
they only do it the once, and I think it's obvious why. So, well, that doesn't mean they had to establish these two are together, and they did a good job. Because if it wasn't for that, honestly, you could be forgiven for thinking that they were sisters, just because they're always together and they look samey. They both wear green, very same outfits. They're both like the same subspecies of ape person because they look kind of like chimps, and the others look like either. So you could be forgiven for being like, oh, they must have broken sisters. Because I don't think they give a last name. But they do that as soon as you see him. So you're like, oh, they're a couple. Oh, I get it.
Can I point out, too, that in the hunting scene, Dodge gets shot in the throat and dies. But Charlton Heston gets shot in the throat and lives.
Yeah, I guess it's like a grazing thing because when they shoot him, it's like square in the back, like where his spine's at,
Mm-hmm.
and the wound looks really bad as far as effects go. It just looked like someone put some red.
Yeah, and then Landon got caught, and then later on, you find out that they operated on his brain.
They lobotomized him.
Yeah. And that's another scene where I laughed a little bit because he's like, "You did this to him, you stupid baboon."
Oh, they cut him.
Yeah. Yeah, and I guess by saying that they cut his memory, that he lost his identity and he can't speak. Yes, so that was the thing, and they were gonna do that to Charlton Heston character, but obviously Cornelius and Zira saw something different about this man because he can speak. Apparently, the other humans can't speak. Do you think they choose not to, or?
He says that they're mute. Like, if you're mute, you lack the ability to even do it. So it's possible that it's like, I mean, we haven't seen the other movies yet. Maybe something else gets removed.
Mm-hmm.
But it might just be the actual genetic mutation is that they have lost vocal cords or the ability to make any kind of meaningful sounds. Maybe, I don't know.
I think it would have been a little better than just saying they're all mute. While
I
they're
kind of like this better because otherwise you have to have a bunch of the human actors who are playing the wild man, but they're all going to make like what is essentially ape sounds, just like grunts and oohs and ahs. Yeah, and I kind of like this better.
well, not even that. I would just because they're doing like experiments on humans that they somehow found a way to rip the vocal cords and do that just so that they could shut up. But
They see him in the wild too.
yeah, that's where I would be like, I kind of like the mute thing too, but it would be interesting if the apes were just like, oh, let's do experiment on humans and see, what's wrong with them. I love how apes are like on Earth, like humans are superior to compared to like animals. On this version of a planet, apes are the superior beings, and man and woman are discussing their animals and stuff. So it was interesting seeing that view. And did Charlton Heston character say like that it's the other way around on our planet?
Yeah, something along those lines. He did. Yeah.
Yeah. And eventually, when Zira started talking to what she called him, Bright Eyes, before he says, "My name is Taylor," because they shot him in the throat, he had to heal up his throat so he could speak and stuff. But while that was happening, he wrote notes and stuff, and he was writing, "I'm from this planet. I'm a space explorer. I came from a spaceship," and I just love the doubt that Cornelius had. He's like, "Man can't write. This is outrageous. Where'd you learn how to write this?" And
it's a stunt or a trick. People keep saying.
mm-hmm. And then he's like, "I learned how to write at this public school," and I was like, "That's great." I was like, "I'm pretty sure these apes don't know what public schooling is." And yeah, they didn't really show the town too much. Like they showed the scene where Charlton Heston character is like running through a town itself.
Yeah, I got the impression it was a small set because I feel like they used the same several pieces of the set several times.
Mm-hmm.
They established the look of it. I like that both the cages and the houses and buildings have a similar kind of a dome situation going. There's like an established architecture, and they stick with it throughout the films. There's a lot of clever design work because like all the clothing like kind of matches, but also functional in a realistic way without being too sci-fi. They don't just wear like jumpsuits or something stupid. They actually wear stuff that looks like tunics, and it's adorable. I guess it would be, oh, I'm in charge. I'm a religious guy, or I'm not. I'm someone. They're color coded to a lesser extent.
Very Stone Age, the town.
Yeah, everything looks like it's like an Adobe hut or something,
mm-hmm.
which wouldn't be Stone Age, but
yeah. The hierarchy in that ape town, I guess. The soldiers are they considered gorillas? Gorillas in any way? Those soldiers.
That's what I thought. They look like gorillas, right? Like they were like the bigger gorilla kind of guys. Hunters, I think, too. And then the religious and political leaders all seem to be orangutans. And,
mm-hmm.
Zira and everyone else. They look like chimpanzees to me. I'm pretty sure that's what you're supposed to.
Yeah. But I like. There was a couple scenes like in the jail scene where the soldier was like smoking a cigar. I thought that was funny.
I love that. That is excellent. When he starts smoking that cigar, I always laugh. There's something about a monkey smoking a cigar.
And I guess they kind of throw little tidbits in there about what's going to be the payoff at the end. Like when he has that cigar, be like, well, why does this planet have a cigar? Did they have their own version of a cigar? Like, where is that coming from?
I think lots of different cultures developed smoking plants on their own in different ways. So that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
The hugest plot hole in this movie, you have to ignore it in order to have fun watching it, is why do they speak the same language? No one ever brings it up. You just ignore it.
Mm-hmm.
That's the one thing that I can point at. That doesn't make any sense. But I mean, at some point you have to say, well, you want to watch this movie. And there's the only other thing that bugged me a little bit, actually, which we're on this now, is the technology is inconsistent. It's like they have cameras, but they don't have paved roads. They have firearms, but they don't have glass windows and stuff like that.
I like how the firearms are all generic, like they look like shotguns that are rifles.
They all have like a weird casing on them. They look like a solid piece. I kind of like it. Like I kind of want one.
Mm-hmm.
I want a prop, or better yet, I want a fucking rifle that I can actually go shoot. I bet you someone's made that.
Probably. There's probably like a replica that actually shoots bullets and stuff, or maybe an airsoft gun. What I'll say about like what really bothered me a lot was that some of the apes, like you had Zero and Cornelius that were trying to be like, hey, something seems off here. We're not allowed to be in the forbidden zone, and I was digging in this area and I found some evidence that man was here before this version of the apes and stuff. Like we evolved from them, and like that started catching my eye a little bit. So I'm like, why aren't they not going to Forbidden Zone? And the what was the other bad ape that just kept on saying no, no, no?
Dr. Zayas?
Yeah, Zayas. He kept on hiding shit, and like the other apes were just like, oh, this is the religion or what we follow. Like they had their own. They called it scrolls, but they were like it felt like a Bible. Did it feel like a Bible to you?
Yeah, I mean, they refer to it as religion.
Mm.
So it's more or less a Bible. He did quotes of it, and they did put the man in the garden and they made sport or something like that. And it's the way he says it, it's flowery, like someone who's quoting scripture or something like that. So that's obviously the analog here. So that's their religious text, just like the Bible, the Torah. Yeah.
Hmm. And you could tell like Rod Serling was like writing this because stuff like religion and the Cold War with nuclear warfare and all that stuff, like you could tell his touch. And when I was hearing his religion thing, I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Where's it going with this?
Had you seen this movie before?
No.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, like well, that's a lie. I did see bits and pieces, but I thought it was boring when I watched it first. This is this is when I was all about like action. This ain't Terminator, like. So like, but now I watch it and I'm like, oh, this is fucking cool. Like, why didn't I watch it back then? But I'm trying to think what else, because the movie was almost like 2 hours, but it didn't feel like 2 hours at all.
It really doesn't. It feels shorter to me.
Because you have the crash land, and then you have getting captured, and then you have the whole part where it's a hearing. Oh yeah, there was a hearing that was I guess bait to try to get Cornelius and Zira, rather than because they just I remember Zayas was like, oh yeah, you were dead in the water already. We just wanted to capture Zira and Cornelius for being traitors of against them pretty much. They didn't allow Charlton Heston character to speak in the hearing because he's an animal. So pretty much, what did they charge Zira and Cornelius with? Hierarchy or something like that?
Heresy.
Heresy?
Religious heresy.
Yeah, so like
later he says, "Oh, only an apostate would come here." And I have to admit, I looked up apostate. But it's someone who like disregards or casts off like an religious idea or something.
mm-hmm.
You were a devout Christian, and then you decided that there is no apostate. So, but yeah, heresy I understood, but he said apostate, and like context clues told me it was more or less that. But I googled it real quick. I'm embarrassed to admit.
I guess another word for it would be treason. if you want to,
well, treason could be against like, political principle, but heresy is specifically religious.
Okay. Yeah, so there was a female character that is kind of just like, oh, I'm mute and I'm good looking and I'm just there and I'm
Nova.
Yeah, Nova, and she's like there, oh, we're gonna make babies in the future kind of kind of girl. I think that's what Charlton Heston was thinking too. It's like we're gonna populate this world with humans.
Well, that's what Zero wanted. Is she wanted that pair to mate? They say.
Mm-hmm. And the prison felt like a zoo, because they treated humans like animals.
Yeah, they keep like hitting the bars with the poles to get them away.
Mm-hmm. I always love how like the guerrilla soldiers were just like stupid as hell, and like Charlton Heston was just like beating the shit out of them. Especially the part where he's running through the town and they just keep on throwing the net, and Charlton Heston just like shimmies to the left and just misses.
Yeah, nets are pretty stupid.
hmm And then that's when he gets captured and everything. But the hearing really quickly, because Charlton Heston's character was going to die anyway, or they were going to experiment on him. He was just bait to get the other two. He was also trying to do evidence to, like, oh, I'm here with other people, and that's when they did the landing scene. He's like, "You cut him, you stupid baboon." And then after the hearing, the nephew rescues him. He just goes up to the stupid gorilla guy and says, "Oh, I need to transport this person to the zoo, because AKA animals and stuff." And then they trick the gorilla because the soldiers are stupid, and they pretty much escape and they go to the Forbidden Zone, where again, super obvious, by the way, when they're all escaping from that little town. Like, of course they're gonna go to the Forbidden Zone because they talked about it in the hearing.
Yeah.
And that's what
It's a big place, but well, they say the reason they want to go there, I mean, they've been accused of whatever heresy against their science/religion, and the only chance that they stand is to prove their theory. So that's why he goes there. So there was proof. I'd almost found it. Like, so he was going to get proof, come back and see, I was right. Clear the charges against
him. But the whole time, every time they were saying we have evidence, and I'm like, this is a religion now. They're not gonna, even if there is evidence in front of the face and they're so deep in their faith, they're just not gonna listen. And
yeah, but they don't see that the way you do. Like, you live in what compared to that would be considered society. But like, they're living in, like, I mean, if you think about it, like a lot of the best artists in like the Renaissance that were doing it specifically to complement religion. Like, religion was their whole life, and it took centuries the way that man thinks to separate God from the way the world is with science. I'm trying to say science without saying science.
Yeah, but for example, if I said, like, I have evidence that this universe is a simulation, and I show you, like, let's say a portion of the universe where it's like a lobby of the simulation, would you believe that right away for living in this world that we know of, being like, oh, we're in a simulation? You would
Not
have
right away. You'd have to like support it with evidence and experiments and stuff like that. I mean, I know that that's the I was just reading about Elon Musk talking today, actually, about simulation. But you know, that's the reason science is the way it is. It's like everything that science has established. That's what we believe right now. We accept it as fact because no one has proved that it is not fact. And all the time, people are proving. You see, we went to space and saw this, gravity, physics, math, whatever, and then they disprove old theories. It happens all the time. Like, the way our thinking is now will almost certainly be overturned at some point. We learned more about dark matter and black holes in the last decade than human existence. So if you look at what we thought about black holes, for instance, in sci-fi in the 60s, that's completely wrong. But it's still, now it's a sci-fi trope. So there's still like that general consciousness. But that's not at all what black hole, because science is advanced. But the way that they think in this movie is that religion, I mean, they don't have a god, it seems. They had the lawgiver. It was like someone who written down all the stuff to start. So it seems like it's hard to say. Like, they don't have someone that, oh, God created. They didn't have that. There was Earth, and then the lawgiver made all of these rules, and he's awesome, and we follow him to a T. And it turns out later, as you see with Dr. Sayus, like, he kind of knew about man and about the Forbidden Zone, and he was following it to a T because he knew it was what was best for ape kind.
Yeah.
So Dr. Zaius is the bad guy, but he's the bad guy for what he thinks are righteous reasons, which is the best way to write a bad guy in fiction. They have to believe that they're doing it. You can't just have, I burn down orphanages because it's hilarious. I'm a serial, haha, I'm evil. That's stupid. Bad guy like Dr. Zaius is perfect because at the end you realize that everything he did was 100% justified, and you could really make an argument that Dr. Zaius is evil because man is evil and did destroy the planet.
Yeah, and like you see the reason why he follows that religion. But what I was trying to say is like Cornelius and Zero were trying to like change his mind, and obviously they didn't know, but Zaius knows a little bit more than they do because of what we're gonna find out soon. Can I really say that when they were presenting the evidence in that cave, I was like, this ain't really smoking gun in any way. But smoking gun to like somebody that is really, really religious, be like, well, you made this, you put this here.
It is kind of weak, that part, because it's a scientist talking to a scientist here. But what he's talking about is stratigraphy. It's like a general principle in geography and archaeology and paleontology that whatever you find at a lower level is going to be older than what's above it, unless of course it was like disturbed or something like that. It's just a real general rule, and that's what he's going off. So the lower society is the advanced. I found this advanced technology with these human bones as opposed to these ape bones. So man used to be more advanced than they are now, which means they should be able to speak and reason and stuff like that.
And then this is where it starts to get a little interesting. While they're in the cave, like he found like false teeth. Well, Charlton Heston was pointing it out. He's like, "Oh, this is false teeth. This is glasses." And was he holding somewhat of a pacemaker? Like
it was a heart valve. Yeah, I used to think it was a pacemaker too, but it's like you can get like a fake valve. A pacemaker is that thing that I think if your heartbeat is off, it gives it like a short jolt or something. I
don't know. But like this is where I started thinking, I was like, oh, I see where this is going, kinda. And then pretty much after they get out of the cave, like they start doing like a shootout thing, and they've had Charlton Heston character pinned down. This scene really, like, he tried to say, "Hey, Cornelius Zira, help," and then Zaius came out. I guess he thought like maybe Charlton Heston character was in trouble. He was like, "Oh, it's clear I can come out now." I just thought that was a little weird.
He wants to see what's going on. What the hell's going on here?
Yeah, what's happening here? And then they capture him. He tells his men to back off like 1,000 times again, and he ties them up to the log. And I thought that was a funny scene too, because Zira and Cornelius is like, "Why are you doing this? You treating him like an animal." And I'm like, "Ha ha!" Just like you do to humans. And that's where he's like, take out the scrolls, and he's like, look at this portion of it. He's like, I knew about you men. You men are evil. Kind of had like the little bit like white man is the devil kind of feel to it. Did you get that vibe?
I don't know. I mean, there's obviously like a species and species thing, but I wasn't getting too much of it. Like, are you talking about the stuff that what's the kid's name? Is it Lucius or Julius?
No. When Zaius was like telling that, I know a person like you, and he was pointing at Charlton Heston, like your kind is like pretty much the devil. And I had like like Native Americans like when they think of white man as the devil. Like that's how I got the feeling from that. I don't know.
You're getting your mind washed by current culture. He's just talking about mankind. All the Indian nations are
Oh
with
no,
each
I'm
other.
not. I'm not trying to tie anything into like what white people are bad or anything. I'm just saying in history, Native Americans back then thought that the white men were devil. And I'm just saying that maybe that's what the apes were thinking about man, that they were just evil and, are destructive. Like one day you're going to have this one man that is just going to ruin shit.
I mean, again, they're right to think that because
Yeah.
man did literally destroy it.
Mm-hmm. And I guess we'll lead to the revealing end. When you saw the torch, the first time, I'm saying the first time you saw this movie, when you saw the torch, did you say like, "Oh, that's a Statue of Liberty"?
I mean, I already knew this movie was flawed. I saw it. I don't know what it was flawed. I'm sure it's like The Simpsons or
Mm-hmm.
The Critic or something. I'm pretty sure they all make that same joke. It's one of the most ubiquitous references in all of culture and all of lampooning culture. But it had been ruined, but still, it still was poignant enough that it ties up the story about. It's Zeus was right. Holy shit, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it had been spoiled. As soon as I saw because like I knew how the movie ended, and part of me was like anxious to get there. I wanted to see that comic scene. Oh,
Yeah.
hell.
So
Blow it up, Daniel. The hell.
yeah, yeah, that iconic scene. But
Right.
to kind of paint the picture a little bit, they were riding along the shore on a horse, both Charlton Heston or Taylor and Nova, and they see the Statue of Liberty, and then Charlton Heston he gets off, and he's like, "Damn you, you destroyed it, everything." Um, I want to ask you something because in kind of going back and forth here, in 2001, I saw that Planet of the Apes, the remake, pretty much. They kind of showed that him leaving the Earth and then coming back, and then there was apes in Washington. In the 1968 one, are they pretty much saying that they went into space, they went far into the future, and then crash land back on the same Earth?
Yeah.
Okay. That's what I thought. Like pretty much they were explaining that humans killed each other in nuclear warfare, and out from the rubble came these apes, these uh this version of ape civilization that are
Well,
run.
at the beginning, he's explaining like it's an experiment to prove a theory which is actually taught now because I remember learning this in high school physics. But
Mm.
it's about the I guess the best way to talk about it is the twin paradox. You ever heard of the twin?
Mm-hmm. Like
It's what's that?
no, you can explain it better than me probably.
Like the faster you go, the closest to the speed of light that you can get, time moves differently. The twin paradox is two twins are born on Earth, one stays on Earth, one gets on a rocket ship. It goes the speed of light to uh, whatever Sirius. It goes to the Sirius star and then back. And when it gets back, the two twins are going to be completely different ages. And it's really hard to wrap your mind around. And I think I still lay awake at night sometimes thinking about the paradox. But that's what they're doing because they're in a rocket ship that's going almost the speed of light, and they go to sleep for what feels like to them. I think he said 70 years. Like they are put into that those little pods. I don't know how else to put it. Like a cryogenic
Mm-hmm.
sleep, but it's not cryogenic because there's no ice involved. Don't matter. But it feels like 70 years to them, and then as the ship is sinking in the water, he glances at the clock, year 39 something. So 2,000 years have passed, even though to them it was 70, and it's because they were traveling at the speed of light. It's proving the scientist's theory And from what I understand, that's still our thinking. Like,
Mm-hmm.
time moves differently the faster you travel. So, man, it takes a smarter person than me to put it in words. Like, I've kind of wrapped my head around it, not to the point where I could be a physics teacher. I'll tell you that much.
Well, you did explain it really well, and um, time is really funny because time is so different in space rather than here on Earth. Like I think every planet has their own version of time and how it travels and stuff. Uh, I think what really does really well in Interstellar is when the planet that's really next to the black hole, and Matthew McConaughey's and them go down that planet. Like what was it? 1 hour was like 7 years or something like that.
Yeah, it's the same. I think they're playing off the same scientific.
Mm-hmm. And then obviously, like you said, the rocket ship theory, like people going into space and then somebody on Earth, they're gonna have two different times and stuff.
Yeah, listeners, if you never have, Google the twin paradox and read like the wiki entry for it. Like the first few paragraphs will explain it better than I did, and it's really interesting.
Mm-hmm. And they kind of show, like, remember when in the beginning of the movie, Charlton Heston was about to leave the ship, and he kind of looks at the dates and stuff, and it's like 3025 or something like that. So, like, that was another hint that they were in the future on Earth. But like I guess Charlton Heston was like, oh, I guess it's all bugged out because we crashed. So that was cool. I thought the ending was really, really put well, and it had that Rod Serling feel to it.
Totally. I mean, it even has like the camera kind of pulls back in that one shot to reveal the Statue of Liberty and also him and Nova and the horse on the beach, and it feels like cinematography from certain episodes of Twilight Zone because it expands to reveal surprise kind of thing. I like that.
Mm-hmm. It was just so good, and man, I wish I was alive in the 60s to see people's reactions in the theater.
Yeah, I always talk about the movie that I would most like to see unspoiled for the first time. Release night. This one would be way up there.
Mm-hmm. Because you gotta believe that people are just like, oh shit, this happened, or oh golly, because that's how everybody talked in the 60s. I'm kidding. Is there anything else we should talk about this film?
Honestly, we've talked about it longer than we usually do. It's clear it's a great movie, and that's what I love about this whole is it. You can't help but think about this kind of stuff once the movie drags.
Yeah,
old sci-fi's the best.
And I recommend it. I'm guessing you also obviously recommend it.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
So we're gonna do something a little different. There's gonna be a ranking system, 1 through 9, since there's 9 movies. Andy, you said you were gonna rank it at number 1 because that's the only movie you saw so far.
Yeah, it's the only Planet of the Apes I've ever seen. Like, I've seen this one like 6 times now.
Mm-hmm.
But going forward, each time we do this, a new surprise.
Yep, it's gonna change every time, and I fucking hate Google Docs when it does that shit. I don't.
The automatic formatting. I think you can turn that.
Yeah. So you have it at number 1. I'm gonna keep it at number 1 too because I did see the 2001 Planet of the Apes, but I don't think it could top this one so far.
From what I understand, that movie's a stinker. Like, part of me dreads getting that far, but also part of it because apparently it's an awful movie, I
guess. You know what? Like, it is not a great movie, but I believe it sets up other movies. I think it sets up the prequels, if I'm correct.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like it ties in with the other ones somehow. Like
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay, well, we will find out more in 6 more episodes.
Yep. So stay tuned on that. There's only one news that I want to talk about. So Toy Story 4 decided to like throw out a trailer out of nowhere.
I mean, how else do you throw out trailers?
Yeah, but sometimes you have a teaser to a trailer these days. It's like, oh, here's a.
They did. They had one. It was like Woody walks over a hill with someone. Like, oh, this place looks great. Where's Buzz? And Buzz is like attached to a wall for prizes at a carnival. And there's like uh, two jerk offs
Man,
faster in it.
where the fuck was I?
I don't know. That was some time ago. But it was funny.
The tone I got from the trailer is that it's gonna be fucking super sad.
Yeah, they made everyone cry with Toy Story 3 in the top end.
One thing I'll say, Andy looks different in this one compared to the one in the 90s.
Was he in it? I didn't catch him.
They show like a flashback because
a flashback, yeah.
But
he gave, spoiler alert for Toy Story 3. At the end of Toy Story 3, Andy goes to college and gives all his toys to her.
And kind of the premise here is that the new kid made their own toy, which was a spoon with googly eyes and yarn for like arms and shit.
Ricky gets a spork.
Yeah. Would they name it Spoony or something?
Forky.
Forky, Spoony, whatever. And just like in Toy Story, they come to life, and that spork comes to life. And
which establishes several questions I have about the Toy Story universe, but whatever.
But pretty much, like, I guess the spork has doubt, doesn't want to be a toy, and runs away. So Woody and the toy gang are chasing after this spork because, she made you're a toy. She wants to be friends with you. You got to come back to your kid and stuff. And like, throughout the trailer, like, there's a lot of undertone of like, oh man, this is sad in a way. But that's every Toy Story these days now. Like, there's going to be a tearjerker scene somewhere. But other than that, I'm definitely going to go see it. I mean, it's Toy Story.
Glad I love the Toy Stories.
Yeah. And in other news, next month, Endgame is coming out. Fucking A.
Yay, I'll just
I will say this. I think Endgame might be my final superhero film to watch, unless something amazing comes out.
And it's the next one I'm excited about. I still haven't seen Captain Marvel. I heard it was pretty good. It's the kind of thing, if a friend's going to go see it, I'm like, yeah, I'll tangle. But after Endgame, there's nothing on the horizon I'm too excited about. Maybe Guardians 3, way down the road, which, what's his face is back on board directing.
Yep, James Gunn.
Yeah, done. That's it. But maybe that, but that's way down the road. There's going to be another Spider-Man movie. I'll have to see eventually.
Oh yeah, that's another one. My bad. Spider-Man I do want to see because one of my favorite villains,
I think.
Mysterio. So Jake Gyllenhaal is playing Mysterio.
Yeah, but, it's the same thing. It's like, oh, we're going to go see Spider-Man. What are you doing? Screw around, but I guess I'll go see Spider-Man. But I'm not gonna go too far. I'm still gonna watch Black Panther too. It's on Netflix. I should watch it once.
I need to watch. I almost said Doctor Doom, Doctor Strange.
It's good. I mean,
I don't know. Everybody knows our feelings about superhero movies already.
Yeah, I'm just worn out on them. There's not even a bad one. Like, if you asked me to point at a Marvel movie and critique it, the worst I could do is it's samey and it's like the other Marvel movies. But the Marvel movies make millions of dollars, so I don't criticize.
I don't like the first Captain America movie. I thought it was boring. But that's my opinion. A lot of people I know that actually like it. Yeah, other than that, guys, I think this is where we'll end the episode. We did like an hour.
Yay! Planet of the Apes hour.
Planet of the Apes hour. When we like a movie, we go deep.
Hour of the Apes.
Yes. To catch all our podcasts, we're on Podbean. We're novnetwork.podbean.com. We're also on iTunes. So if you look at Nerd Review Network on iTunes, we're there. We're also posted on nerdreview.com. Nerdreview.com is where we post anything nerdy. So if there's a video game news, wrestling, comic book stuff, we post shit there. Andy, any projects you working on?
Video game projects mostly. Movie stuff, not really.
Mm-hmm.
I hate to say it. I mean, as far as projects go, like I said, my house is taken up literally
Yeah. My project is I need to watch more shit. So
do it.
that's my thing. And also, I am working on something that I will announce in the near future. I won't, that's all I'm going to say. So keep an eye out or keep an ear out since we're an audio podcast. Make sure to, comment on Podbean. I know we have 150 followers on there.
Yeah, you can keep an eye out too. Keep an eye out on Podbean, on Twitter, on you, everywhere.
We don't
follow, like, subscribe.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go through that whole shtick again.
Make sure you smash the like button. I don't know.
Smash that like button. Oh.
On that note, everybody, I hope you have a good day and see you next week.
Thanks for listening.